Welcome back, Troglodytes, to your daily dose of guitar information, the Trogly's Guitar Show. Here it is, the freaky guitar from Japan, and we're going to learn all about it today. So this is what is known as the Gibson Les Paul Mickey Baker Mastertone Custom. You've probably seen it somewhere in your internet searches before and had no idea what it was or what to even call it. So let's go ahead and demystify this mysterious guitar. These were available as custom orders from 1998 until 2003, 2004, so you had roughly 5 to 6 years to know that Gibson was offering this in some catalog somewhere, and then you had to place your order. Needless to say, not very many were made, about 25 to 50, the exact number really isn't known, but we do know there's not that many of them, so they've kind of instantly become collectibles, and I blame the internet and people learning about this really cool 50s Gibson. You heard me right. This was a real 50s model. Because this is a reissue of a late 50s custom order by a guy named Mickey Baker. There was a triple P90 version. It looked similar to this one. It had the knob at the top. But you know, P90 pickups, we talked about that one in the Queen of Clean episode. But the control layout on that one was a little bit different. Instead of the 3 in a line like a Flying V style, it was still Les Paul styled. It was just missing a knob. But then there was Mickey's 3 humbucker Les Paul, which looked exactly like this. And it's rumored that that custom ordered guitar was the very first Les Paul custom to feature the brand new and now legendary PAF humbucker pickup. So yeah, super historical in that aspect. So a reissue of it that was made in super limited numbers, as you can tell, very collectible. But if you don't know who Mickey Baker was, he was born in Kentucky in 1925. He lived a long life. He only parted with us in 2012, but he was part of a pop duo in the 50s called Mickey and Sylvia. And their big popular hit single was called Love is Strange, and that was done in 1957. Now, if you're like me, you're probably like, yeah, that means nothing to me. Go to YouTube, type it in, listen to it. You'll go, that sounds familiar. And then the guitar kicks in and you go, oh, yeah, I know that song. If you've ever been to any type of old school diner that does the whole 50s, 60s vibe, you've heard that song. It was also used for a scene in the movie Dirty Dancing. But he wasn't really just a one-hit wonder. I mean, he's in Rolling Stone's top 100 guitarist lists. And on top of being in that band, he was a session guitarist for genres from jazz to calypso to mambo to rhythm and blues. And he was also a guitar instructor, and people still use his course today called a complete course in jazz guitar. So if you remember absolutely nothing else from this video, just remember Mickey Baker, an early adapter of the solid body electric guitar in the jazz genre, very similar to Les Paul, the man. So now that we know why this crazy thing exists, let's go ahead and explain it. What is going on here? This is not something that Mickey came up with himself. It's actually very well organized and borrowed from another archtop guitar, the ES5. That model was made from about 1949 through 1955 in this style of a configuration. And then they called it the ES5 Switchmaster. They gave it a switch instead of having the knob. And then it also got humbuckers, but then it got 6. Now it just gets messy. That's a whole nother topic for another day. But this is basically just a blending of the ES5 and the Switchmaster, but with the new humbucker pickups. So what this is it's individual volume controls for each and every pickup. So neck pickup, middle pickup, bridge pickup. And then this guy right here, instead of a pickup selector switch, it's a Mastertone. So if you don't use your tone too much, you can just forget about it. But what makes this continually interesting is you can now get so many different tonal opportunities out of this guitar. Because typically, when Gibson would do a 3 humbucker PAF Les Paul in the 50s, it would be wired in a way that a lot of people don't like. The neck position would just be the neck pickup. The bridge position, well, it would be the bridge pickup. With this third pickup, it would be the bridge and middle together in kind of like a quacky, out-of-phase sound, but it would sound Stratocaster-like. And I personally like that setup because it's simple, but a lot of people would modify those old customs so it would be a blend knob, so you'd just be blending the middle pickup in with all the other ones. This one takes it to a whole new extreme, because now, instead of having any type of pickup selector switch, it is all blend knobs. So if you want just a hair of the neck pickup with the middle pickup full on and the bridge pickup halfway on, you can do that. If you want just full on everything, you can also do that. If you just want a little bit of the middle with those, or if you just want the middle pickup all by itself, you can almost never do that on a custom. It's possible. And that's why this guitar, it's just freaky. I can't wait to plug it in and explore its tonalities. But other than the freaky pickup selecting system, it's just your standard 1957 Les Paul custom reissue. That means you're gonna have a mahogany top because they had mahogany tops back then, not quite maple yet. You got a solid mahogany back, you've got a big mahogany chunky neck, it's nice and rounded, and all those other nice historic features like thin binding in the cutaway, things like that. These were just really nice reissues of a really obscure guitar. So to learn more about it, let's go ahead, throw it on the workbench, clean it up, and take a look at its individual parts. Alright guys, this is an odd duck. Okay, so we've got 3 PAF humbuckers in here. They're likely 57 classics. They're made to replicate the sound of the original PAFs. They've got the same patent applied for decal on all 3 of them. Now, if you have yours and you're trying to verify yours is original, sometimes, like this one, you can see that they start to chip and flake off over the years. But it doesn't look like anybody's tried taking the covers off or anything. Now, for the reason why I call this thing an odd duck. Why does a historic guitar have a short neck tenon? I do not understand it. Maybe it's some weird 50s Gibson spec thing that I'm not familiar with, but normally when you get a historic Gibson, the 2 big features are ABR1 bridge drilled directly into the top, which is true, and a long neck tenon. So why does the Mickey Baker Les Paul have a short neck tenon? Because it's not like this was a prehistoric, before 1993 when they opened the custom shop and started doing that on reissues. This is 1998, so that's just kind of a bizarre little fact here. But we'll take a look at the rest of the routes here. I mean, it's just a standard 3 pickup Les Paul. And remember, there is no maple top to this guitar. It's just all mahogany. And what that means for you is some people say these have more of a mid-range sound to it, and that's a fact that not everybody really realizes of what the 57 custom reissues are. Because just looking at it, unless you get one of the ones that's like a natural finish, you can't tell it has a mahogany top until you look in there. But as we were talking about, Gibson ABR1 bridge, it's just the historically correct one, and it reads Gibson ABR1. And now some more news. Now this could just be another thing that I'm not familiar with, but the backside of this tailpiece reads Made in Germany. I believe this has been replaced. I'm almost 100% confident. And the reason why I say that is there's been some minor modifications to this guitar. And at one point in time, I'm betting somebody had one of the Vibromate B7s on here. A Bigsby. And I just polished the top so it's kind of hard to see. But you can see some very light scuffing to the finish in these 2 areas. And I think there was like a small little scratch right here. You could just barely tell there was a Bigsby on this at one point in time. Somebody had a Jimmy Page vibe to this thing. I think it would have looked cool. But thankfully, they did not drill this thing. So what's an original 90s gold tailpiece gonna cost you? Yeah, maybe 20, 30 bucks. So not a big deal. The only other thing that I noticed here is it looks like somebody actually might have converted this to like a 3-way toggle switch, or just put a poker chip around here. The thing that says rhythm and treble, because you can just see that the finish kind of has that circle around it from the scratches that would have caused. And the other nice thing is this thing was definitely played. You can see some finish wear here. It just caught my eye that there's a very small drop fill right there, so there must have been a little finish breaking ding. But it was definitely well taken care of here, and once again, this whole bizarre setup. And underneath the pickguard here, you can see you've got a small impression if you wanted to take it off, but I'm just gonna go ahead and put that back on. But it is factory 3 pickup cut. Let's go ahead and check out these DC ratings. I'm already not looking forward to demoing this one because I want to capture all the tones, but just this little bit of a change is going to change your tone drastically. And so is this one, and this one, and this one, this one, this one. It's going to be impossible to do, but I'm going to do my best. So just your neck pickup here, all the other ones on 0, 7.66, that's what you would expect. So just your middle pickup now, 7.62. All right. Now just your bridge, 7.63. So they're all within that 57 Classic spec. Let's see what happens when you just have these two. So it sounds like you're going to have your traditional Gibson sounding setup. It's going to be that single coil kind of quackiness. But if you throw in your neck pickup, is it going to get even more strattier? I can't wait to plug this thing in. So once again, complete mahogany body with a mahogany neck and a traditional ebony fretboard. And as with customs of the era, real mother of pearl inlays here. So there is a little bit of fret wear. That's how you know somebody actually played it. But the other thing that is not 50 spec on this thing, besides the whole long neck tenon thing, is look at the size of these frets. That's definitely modern fret wire, so you don't have to worry about the whole fretless wonder thing on this one. You can easily do rock guitar bends. They do have the historic small fret nibs, though. The nut on this model has been changed. You can tell because there's no finish over the side of the nut. That's the easiest way to know. And usually you get some light finish checking here, which is also the case. Check out the sweet truss rod cover. I love historic truss rod covers. They have this really cool beveled edge to them that makes them thick. You've got kind of that 50s style look here. The ambered over lacquer's pretty cool. Your truss rod's in good shape. And the other spec that they changed from the original Mickey Baker is his had the Kluson style, and the reissues have Grovers. The nut width is 1.66 inches. That increases to 2.04 at the 12th. First fret neck depth, 0.94, and gets to a chunky 1.02 at the 12th. It is definitely a 50s rounded neck. And we've got the traditional Gibson scale, 24 3/4. Moving on to the back here, looking in here confirmed exactly what I thought. There had been some modifications in here. You can see these solder joints, clearly not original. So that means the pickups have likely been in and out. They are the era correct set, I would guess the originals. But it might just be that two pots went bad because these look like they've been replaced to me. They're still CTS pots. I'm not quite sure how to read the code on that one. And all the numbers are covered up on this one, but this pot still seems to be, era correct. Just see that it's a 1994 on the 14th week, which predates this guitar. So I'm just going to go ahead and say all the pots have been replaced. But that looks like pretty good solder work, so it wouldn't surprise me if that's factory original. But then as we move up to here, instead of a three-way toggle switch, you've got your Mastertone, right? So normally you don't see a capacitor in here for that. But anyways, you've got some scratches and impressions here and some buckle worming right there. But other than that, I mean, whoever played this thing definitely took care of it. So we'll move on to the neck here. Again, nice, big and chunky, just some minor impressions here. And then you got this guy. Doesn't that just scream, hey, I'm a fake Gibson? It just looks goofy, but it is correct for a 1998 version of one of these. You can see some very fine finish check lines right there, and a few coming from the nut. You'll see that in the Blacklight Test too. Something else you'll also see in the Blacklight Test that I forgot to point out. See how you can see the mahogany wood grain right here? That's also how you can tell it's a hog top. Then moving on to the back, Grover tuners, and here's how you read the early ones' serial numbers. These are all 1957 reissue customs, so they'll start with 7, so that doesn't tell you the year. So it's first year, 1998, and the third one in production. What's kind of fun is on eBay right now sits number 2. It's also in Japan, the same place where I imported this one back from, so I'm wondering if a collector just sold those off recently. However, keep in mind, if you're buying that one, it might have some hidden demons too, because this was sold to me as all original. And the things that have been changed, it doesn't bug me too much, because you still have the original pickups, and it's still wired up the same. But both of the back plates then have this shielding on it, and that meets up with that. Looking around the edges, you can see you have the plastic output jack plate. They're prone to cracking, but hey, they're historically correct. And regular style Gibson strap buttons. I thought this one felt chunky. 10 pounds, 5.5 ounces. So let's go ahead and sit down and discover the tones of the Mickey Baker Les Paul. I think we can all agree it'd be best if I talk us through this one because you really can't see what I'm doing here. So right now, everything's off. So let's just hear the neck pickup. Sounds like a nice Les Paul humbucker in the neck position, right? So now let's do just the bridge pickup. nice and spanky like always, but now we actually have the option to hear just what the middle pickup sounds like. It's kind of an interesting mellow tone to it. But now let's get that middle and bridge sound that we're used to on these things. So you can tell it doesn't do that out of phase thing as much as the other ones, which I'm kind of sad. It's not as stratty sounding as I was hoping for. It really is acting more so just like blend knobs for each of these. Something you can't normally get is the neck pickup and the middle pickup, so let's go ahead and test that. Nice and mellow. I'm digging that. Kind of funky at the same time. Also have neck and bridge. But at this point, you could really just go crazy. Let's say 3 on the neck pickup, let's have full blast in the middle, and just like 5 on the bridge. It'd sound like this. You could just have all of them on. So this is just something completely different. It's not like a regular 3 pickup custom, but it gives you tons of opportunities, and I didn't even touch the tone knob. But now that I've messed around with it a while, basically the bridge pickup, it does what you think it does. It gives you a little bit more brightness to your tone. So if you don't want it to be super bright, you kind of roll that down. The middle pickup kind of controls that strattiness to it. So if you don't want that for your situation, just turn it all the way off. And then the neck pickup kind of gives you those deeper jazzy tones to it. So using that knowledge, if you kind of wanted a single coily jazzy thing, you could just have this on 5, this on 10. Or if you want more strattiness, have it all on. So you really do have a lot of opportunities. I'll just go ahead and play around with it now. No more talking. We know all about the Mickey Baker Les Paul Custom. What are my final thoughts? Obviously, these are priced for collectors. They're very rare, so they're not going to be very economical for a player, but man, the tonal opportunities on this thing. At first I thought it was really only a good clean guitar. You can dial in all sorts of different sounds here. It's not quite as stratty as a regular 3 pickup guitar in that middle position, but it's still got something really special to it. Honestly, I think fiddling around with this on stage would become really annoying, so maybe not a gigging guitar. You probably don't want to gig such a rare guitar anyways. That's how much fun I had with it. I classify it as a collectible guitar. Not really every player needs to rush out and buy one of these because, honestly, you can't. They're so rare, they almost never show up. But if you do get your chance to get your hands on one of these, definitely do. And now that my documentation's done, let's go ahead and review its condition if you are interested in being the next owner of this rare beast. So as we were talking on the workbench, it's been played, it's got some light wear, but honestly this thing cleaned up beautifully. You've got awesome golden aged lacquer with just some light scratches on the face of the headstock. Your truss rod's in great shape. The nut has been replaced. There is some very fine finish checking back here. No breaks, cracks, or repairs, but we'll see that under blacklight. The frets just show very minor wear. Nothing really you'll have to worry about. And if it bugs you that there's like slight fret wear, you could always get a level recrown job because these are nice and tall frets yet. The face of the guitar, it's got scratches from picking and some light swirls and things like that. As we were talking earlier, there is a very light drop fill touch-up area right here. And I'm pretty sure somebody had one of those Vibramate Bigsby's on here at one point in time, but no additional holes were drilled. The electronics, yeah, they might have been changed out, but it's still within the original configuration. But the gold definitely has a very nice appearance to it yet. Moving on to the back, you can see some very light edge wear where you can kind of see the mahogany poking through, but it's not like a giant chunk off the neck or anything. But that is there, and again, the very light finish checking. Very few minor impressions on the neck. I mean, black finishes generally just show it all, so I'll get it in the light here. Moving on to the back, you've got some buckle worming marks, and just some other light impressions and nicks and dings. I mean, I don't think any collector would really have too many issues with the condition of this one. Yeah, it stinks that the electronics were a little bit messed with. Does it stink that the electronics were messed with? Yeah, but oh well, you don't have much of a choice with these guys. You've got your typical binding cracking lines along the frets, a little bit on the body of the binding as well, but no giant chunks out of these. And I want to err on the side of caution that these might actually be replacement strap buttons of an original style, because there were Schaller parts inside of the case, which means either the case was non-original or there were just random Schaller locking parts in there. But I took those out, so you just have original style buttons now. Now what's cool about being under blacklight, as I hinted to, is if you get it in the light just right, you can actually see the mahogany wood grain underneath. That tells you it's a pretty nice thin finish there. But besides just average light play wear, I did not see anything that, raises any red flags. And whoever did this drop fill did a terrific job. I mean, you can tell if you look at it in the light, but other than that, most people probably wouldn't notice it. So everything good on the face of the guitar here, and same thing with the face of the headstock. Now we'll look at the back. I'll try to show you those finish checking marks. I mean, they are very hard to see even in person. I didn't even see them until I looked under blacklight, but hopefully you can kind of see them there. Take a look at that edge wear real quick. One of these days I'll find a better way to show you guys this stuff. On the middle of the neck you can see there's a little bit of a stand rash. You can't see that in regular lighting situations though because it's a black finish. But if it were a natural neck you'd kind of see like a red stain mark. Looks like, I don't know, maybe was there a sticker on here at one point in time? But in regular lighting situations you don't see it. So I would say this is still a clean, collectible condition guitar. I mean, I'm plenty happy with it, that's for sure. This instrument comes in an air-correct Gibson USA hardshell case. It's got the tan exterior. I mean, it's got scratches and scuffs. Honestly, this one has a very pronounced top carve to it. You can feel the protection on this one. Then some Tolex tears, rips to this stuff. I mean, it looks about what I would expect this case to look like if this thing was lightly gigged. I'd say down here is definitely the worst of the condition. But all your latches are present and functioning. The combo lock is there and set to 000. Now, I got really scared when I shut that because I didn't know if I'd be able to open it. So when you do that, you kind of gotta help this thing open. The spring's not quite as strong as it used to be. So it functions, you just gotta help it. And the handle is still present. Inside, you still have your case shroud here attached. And you can see that somebody liked to leave the strings long. That's why that's kind of roughed up right there. This is the version with the headstock wedge. I'm not a fan of it, but you might be. And in here, the only type of case candy I have is this front change combination lock instructions. If you think you might be interested in being the next owner of this Gibson Les Paul Mickey Baker Mastertone, you can check the listing out on reverb.com. There's a link in the description. But until then, I'm going to be enjoying this one. Thank you for watching, Troglodytes. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you tomorrow on the next one. Take care.